This channel is for adults and not for kids. Hey guys, thanks for stopping back by. Today I've got a cool monster toy to show you guys. This is Tendril from the Inhumanoids line of toys that came out in 1986 from Hasbro. If you watched the video I made of Cthulhu toys, I think it's the first one I made, Cthulhu Toys #1. I mentioned this guy in that video. To me, he's an honorary Cthulhu, sort of a poor man's Cthulhu. Whoever was designing these monsters and these toys at Hasbro definitely had Cthulhu in mind when they were making this beast. This is a great big, he's probably about 14 inches tall, 14 to 15 inches tall. He's got movable arms, movable little tentacles are bendable. His legs move. I found this one at a toy show. And normally when you find these two front tentacles are broken off. And that was the case with this one that I found. It just had two little nubs. Basically, they are translucent orange. And there's a little window up on the top of his head that this was translucent orange too, and it was light piping. So the light would come in here and it would glow in those two front tentacles, but those tentacles were busted off, like I said. So I made new tentacles out of 2-part epoxy putty and put them on and then painted them up, and I like it better than the orange sort of glowy tentacles that they had on him. Those Inhumanoids, those are cool toys. The three great big monsters are the fun of that line. There's this guy who is Tendril. He's supposed to be like a plant monster, even though it's very Cthulhu-ish. He's like a plant. And there is another monster that has like a skull head, and he's called Decompose. And then there's the bad guy leader. I think his name is Metlar or Moltar. I'm gonna say Metlar. I think it's Metlar. He's basically a big devil, and he's cool looking too, but Tendril is the one that appealed to me. And I don't know why I never owned a Tendril when I was a little kid. Well, these came out in '86 and I was 16, so I might have been at that stupid age where you aren't getting as many toys as you used to. And that might have had something to do with it. But in my 20s, when I came back to my senses, in my 20s, I really wanted one of these bad. And I found one at, there was a toy show being held at the Scottish Rite Temple. And I went in there, and my buddy had a booth. He was selling stuff for his comic book store. And the guy the very next table over was unloading a bunch of toys. So since I was helping my buddy, set up his tables, we were in the auditorium before the public was. And so I looked over at the next table and I was like, holy shit. And I believe those were probably the words that I uttered. And man, you never say something like that when you're trying to buy something from somebody, because you can't really barter. They know they got you by the balls if you jump up and down and you're like, wow, I really want that thing. So, yeah, I was like, wow, that's amazing. How much do you want for that? And the guy was like, because the two... Baby, Daddy's trying to talk monsters. Okay. Now go sit down, sit down. Let Daddy talk about the monsters. Good boy, good boy. Okay. The fuck was I saying? Oh yeah, so the guy was like, I think he wanted $75 for it, but it did have those broken off, and so I did. Thankfully, I came to my senses, and I talked him down, because I made a big deal about, oh, it doesn't have the two front teeth. It doesn't have the two front tentacles. So I talked him down to $50. So yeah, I felt a little good about that. And then plus I got to find this awesome Cthulhu-like monster that had been eluding me for years. I could never find one. And like I said, normally when you find tendrils, they're in bad shape. You can almost always count these two tentacles busted off, and people want a fortune for them, because not only are they wanted by toy collectors, but they're wanted by monster collectors too. And if you're a monster toy collector, you know, you have all this competition to try and find these damn things. There were two versions of this toy that came out that I knew of. There was one that had long front tentacles, which is what I modeled these tentacles off of. And then there was one that had shorter little nubs, probably to about there, probably about half the size of these. So those are the two variations of him that I know of. And the short tentacled version seems to be the version that you always see out there in the wild at toy shows. But he's a very cool monster. And like I said, he's kind of like a poor man's Cthulhu. Like, he's very octopusy looking, very cephalopod, octopus looking monster. So I still stand by the fact that I think he's like a poor man's Cthulhu. It's an awesome monster toy though. It's like 14, 15 inches tall of monster. And you gotta love that. Okay, the only other Inhumanoids piece that I have, this little guy's cool, and I do not remember his name. But see, okay, he's like a tree trunk, like a tree monster. And see, this has the light piping. It's green and clear on top, and then see how the light kind of makes his eyes glow, sorta. So that's what he used to do also, except orange. But without those orange things, it didn't make much sense to have this orange part on the top of his head, so I painted it to match the tentacles. But this little guy is in perfect shape. And I think you can have him short. And then he pops up to be taller. He's like a little tree trunk monster. I don't remember if he was a good guy or a bad guy. I want to say he was a good guy. I don't really remember a whole hell of a lot about that Inhumanoids cartoon. But I know that the good guys, the scientists, I know they had some help from some good monsters. I think there were like some rock creatures that were good guys. And I thought these little tree dudes were good guys too, but don't hold me to that. That could all just be some crazy fever dream I came up with, but that's kind of what I think it was. Anyway, did any of you guys have Tendril? Do you have Tendril now? Do you guys think he's a cool monster? Can you guys kind of see where I was coming from with the whole poor man's Cthulhu? Like, he sort of looks that way to me. Anyway, I'm glad I have him in the collection. It's another cool giant-sized monster figure. Monster toy from the 80s, from 1986. And I love him. I think he's very, very cool. All right, my friends. I think that's going to do it for today's videos. Hope you guys have a kick-ass weekend. I'm going to start watching my Vincent Price movies now in honor of his birthday. And Thor keeps looking at me super impatient. He wants me to make some popcorn so we can watch Vincent Price and he can have some popcorn with Daddy. All right, my friends, my monster brothers and sisters, I will talk to you guys later. See ya.